Ensouled heads are a great way of getting some fast and cheap rare XP. In this guide, I'm going to go over the requirements to do this method, how to do it, and I'll also go over which Ensouled heads you should use. To use this method, you need access to the Arceus spellbook, and for that you need 60% Arceus Favour. For an easy way of getting to the place you need to reanimate Ensouled heads, I would also recommend unlocking the CIS Fairy Ring. This requires that you pay a one-time fee of 80k to Trosser, as well as having completed Fairy Tail Part 2 in order to have access to fairy rings. You will also need to have some way of killing the reanimated creatures. I tend to use melee for most of the monsters. You don't need to be super high level, just bear this in mind. There are 4 spells in the Arceus spellbook which reanimate different tiers of creatures. The first spell requires level 16 magic, as well as 4 body runes and 2 nature runes to cast. It works on goblins, monkeys, imps, minotaurs, scorpions, bears, and unicorns. Unless you are a low level and don't have the requirements for higher tier spells, I wouldn't recommend using this one as the power HP won't be that high. Adept Reanimation requires level 41 magic, as well as 4 body runes, 3 nature runes, and 1 soul rune to cast. It works on dogs, chaos druids, ogres, giants, elves, trolls, and horrors. Expert Reanimation requires level 72 magic, as well as 1 blood rune, 3 nature runes, and 2 soul runes to cast. It works on Calphites, Dagonoth, Bloodfelds, Tazar, and demons. The final spell, Master Reanimation, requires level 90 magic, as well as 2 blood runes, 4 nature runes, and 4 soul runes to cast. It works on Aviances, Abyssal Demons, and Dragons. Now for some information about specific monsters. Reanimated Calphites can poison you, so if you are killing them, make sure to bring some anti-poison. For reanimated dragons, you will need to bring some form of Dragonfire protection. You do not need a Witchwood icon to kill reanimated horrors. Aviances are immune to melee attacks, and you will need to use range to kill them. Ensouled creatures will actually count towards Slayer tasks, so if you want to get a Slayer Helm boost, or you want to finish a task, you could reanimate whichever monster is your task. It's also worth mentioning that for Slayer monsters, you will need to have the required Slayer level to kill them. For example, to kill reanimated Bloodvelds, you need level 50 Slayer. As reanimated horrors are technically jungle horrors and not cave horrors, you don't need 58 Slayer to kill them. Now I'm going to go over some of my suggestions of which Ensouled heads to use. For reference, before I explain the different costs of all the heads, a Dragonbone on a Gilded Altar will be about 8.1 GP per XP. If you just want the fastest experience possible and you have the requirements, use Ensouled Dragon heads. Depending on your combat level, you should be getting over 300k XP per hour, and at current prices this will cost you around 4.4 GP per XP. If you have 90 magic but want to save some money, I would recommend using Ensouled Abyssal heads. They are currently around 3.5 GP per XP, and this is a fair bit cheaper than using dragon heads and not that much slower in terms of XP. I was getting around 280k XP per hour when I tested it. If you have 72 magic but not 90, then demon heads would be the best XP. However, I wouldn't recommend it as they are barely cheaper than abyssal heads at 3.4 GP per XP. Bloodfelds are significantly cheaper at 2.9 GP per XP, and they're only slightly lower XP. I was getting around 240k XP per hour with Bloodfelds. If you have 41 magic but not 72, then Ensouled Horror heads will be the best experience and will be around 2.6 GP per XP. Cheaper options will be Troll heads at 2.5 GP per XP and Giant heads at 2.2 GP per XP. Bear in mind that typically the cheaper it is, the less XP you'll get. You can probably expect between 130k and 170k per hour with this tier of heads. If you don't have 41 magic, then the highest XP you can get is Unicorn heads. This is quite expensive at 3.6 GP per XP. A good cheaper option would be Bears, as they are 1.9 GP per XP, which is both a significantly lower cost than Unicorn heads and is also barely lower in terms of XP. You can potentially get around 100k XP per hour with these, although if you're using these then you're probably lower combat, so you should probably expect to get a little bit less than this. So those are my recommendations on what to use. Of course you can use whatever you want, and if you're an Iron Man then just use whatever you have lying around your bank, I guess. So to kill the reanimated creatures, I just bring a regular melee setup. You can of course upgrade or downgrade any part of this. The gear setup isn't really that important because the monsters don't have a lot of health, just as long as you're able to kill them, that anything will be fine really. And in the inventory I bring a DDS and a superset, just to speed up the kills a little bit. I bring some food. The lower your defense, the more food you'll want to bring, but you won't need that much because you'll be killing them quite quickly. Bring whatever Ensouled heads you want to bring, as well as the runes to cast wherever spell you need. I will be using Master Reanimation for the Abyssal heads. So I've got Nature runes, Blood runes, and Soul runes. And then you also want some way of getting to the area, which I will use this construction cape just as a house teleport. And I have a fairy ring in my house. So I will just go to CIS, but you can have any other way of getting to a fairy ring if you have like a RD cloak or whatever it is. So I just go to CIS, and this is near the area that you need to go to kill them. If The area you need to be in to use the Ensouled heads is an area around the Dark Altar. Also, if you're not on the Archaea spellbook, this is where you go onto the spellbook, so I'll show you that too. But here's the CIS Fairy Ring, and you can cast it basically anywhere around here, so I'll show you. You just go up here and to the right. Once you're here, you can change your spellbook with Tis if you're not already on the Archaea spellbook. And as soon as you are, you can just start anywhere around here, start using your spell, click on that and click on your head. And there you go, you can just reanimate anything and then it'll spawn the monster after a couple of seconds and you just have to kill it. It's that simple. So I kill this thing, it's not got much health, only 35, most of them tend to have 35. So I kill that, any second now. I should probably drink my potions here. Okay, this is taking longer than I thought. Normally you can just one-hit them. There we go, okay, it's dead. So 1300 per XP. So you can keep just reanimating wherever you want, really. So you could just keep going on all the way down here. And a thing that happens is every time you reanimate a creature, you'll take like a step to the left. And gradually you'll go slowly, like all the way down the path. But a way you can prevent this is what I like to do is I'll go up into this corner up here, just to the left of this Dark Altar. And what you can do is you just start reanimating them here and you'll just get pushed back so you can't keep going. So I'll show you in a second. So now when I try and reanimate this one here when I'm against the wall, I'll just go to the right and then I basically just stay here for the entire trip and use all the heads I have and you get quite a bit of XP. So I'm done with my inventory now and all I'll need to do is teleport to a bank and then come right back and it's that simple. Just get some more heads out and keep going until you've used them all up. I'm getting about 270k per XP from Abyssal Demons right now, so it's quite fast honestly. It's much cheaper than using Dragon Bones on a Gilded Altar as well, so definitely something to consider if you want to save money. And that'll wrap up the guide, guys. Let me know if it helped. I'd appreciate it if you left a like if it did and subscribe for more guides like this. See you in the next one.